All right, well, welcome to Exploring Integrity. This is actually our seventh meeting, but this is part 6. This is what I call the commitment conversation. And I will make a note that it is 6:16 Eastern time in the afternoon here. We were supposed to start at 6. Amy was here, and I saw that she was, she was ready to go in the queue about 10, 15 minutes early. So, and that's when I set it up. So it's just us right now, and whoever shows up is meant to show up, and whoever is not is will hopefully watch this recording. But let's just start off with our normal check-in, Amy, which is how are you arriving and what are you bringing? We had a chance to catch up a little bit here, but I'll let you check in with that first, and I'll do the same as well.
I'm arriving whole.
Mm-hmm.
And that hasn't been the case a lot of times, but I'm very strong, in my power. I'm excited to find, to learn this other concept about commitment. So, and, finishing it up, being there for the final step. That's, you can be there for the first, and all the way through, but the final part is where you get the blessing, right? So I'm here for the blessing, and the great conversation, I'm just ready for that.
Very good. Yep, I'm gonna let my daughter say hi again because she just busted right into the room. So yeah, so I feel like the field is just saying, look, you make plans, but what is meant to be is what is meant to be. And if it's meant to be that most of the others are meant to watch this on the recording, then it's just meant to be you and me right now, Amy. So yeah, I'm arriving. Yeah. So why don't you go? Well, yeah. Why don't you go see mommy? Okay. Why don't you go see mommy, little girl? Yep.
I want you to see my dress.
Okay. Okay. So you want to see your dress? Okay. So we will let everybody who's watching this recording see your dress as well too. All right. There we go. So Lulu wants to be in this recording. So whoever watches this for years to come will get to know Eloise Flora Watson Schumann at 2.5 years old right here. So that's what's meant to be, and that's what's meant to be preserved for posterity at the moment. Okay, so can you go see mommy?
Yeah, but I want.
You want what?
Bye, sweetie.
Nah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, why don't you go see mommy, and maybe she'll get you some snacks. Okay. All right. Very good. Okay. Yeah. So So I'm arriving just with acceptance. I did a lot of work over the last month or two completing our matrix. And, if we talk about that, we talk about that. If not, that's okay too. But just realizing that I've learned a lot, and I've learned a lot about acceptance. And we were talking about forgiveness as well before we started the recording, just how that really just opens up a lot. It really just opens up a lot. Amy and I were talking about how we don't really control other people's opinions. We don't really control their opinions about us. We can't control the stories that they're telling about us. But just being accepting of it and forgiving of that kind of helps to go with the flow and to connect more with source. So I'm feeling connected as well. I'm feeling connected, and I'm feeling like this is what's meant to be. Honestly, I'm really happy and excited because of what we have done and what we've accomplished. And I don't know if anybody listening and even members of our own group fully understand yet what we've done. And I'll talk a little bit about that during the course of this conversation. So I'm in with that. So how am I arriving? What am I bringing? I'm just bringing, I'm bringing a lot of notes, but I don't even know if those notes will be necessary as we go on in this conversation. So Amy, just thinking back over the last 7 months. So we've been meeting, over the course of 7 months. just if someone were to ask you, what do you remember about your time with that group, or what do you feel compelled to say about your experience so far, as we're wrapping these conversations up?
Well, I mean, I could definitely have met people that I would not normally have contact with.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot about myself
Mm-hmm.
and acceptance for myself and how I operate. And also, I forgave a lot of, self growth during the whole, learning how to talk process.
Mm-hmm.
I had no clue on exactly what I was doing when I was doing it. I was just doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And you broke it down for me for some more clarification and understanding what we're actually doing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Sure.
Sometimes
So according to you, what is it that we're doing?
we're opening a line of communication
Mm-hmm.
where we can expand ourselves
Mm-hmm.
in a collective form, in a higher, like more intelligent conversations,
Mm-hmm.
that can be looked at both in the left hemisphere and the right hemisphere at the
Nice.
same time as we're bringing ourselves into oneness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean a whole unit, so we can stand in our power
Mm-hmm.
is how I see it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's going to be bumps of the way when you start doing this. There's going to be weeds, and they have to be pulled to make sure that pillar of strength, that power that you hold,
Mm-hmm.
can stand up in the test of time,
Yeah.
even when everything goes wrong around you. That's
Mm-hmm.
how I see it.
Yeah.
So,
Very good. Very good. Yeah, no, I'm hearing that. Yes. And especially as I've been noticing, like we started out with 8 or 9, and then as the conversations continued, we kind of dwindled and dwindled. The last conversation, we only had 3 of us, and now it's down to 2 of us. So it's kind of like, you make plans, but God laughs, and what shows up is perfect the way it is. So
right.
yeah, what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to kind of paint a picture here of what tonight is. So we're coming full circle now. So the first conversation was, and I'll just do a quick recap here for anyone watching, and also for our own members who are watching this, to kind of understand where we've been on this journey. So the first conversation was an appreciation conversation. I kind of call that the pioneering phase, where we're exploring new territory, we're exploring new ground. And what we did is that we've created the living library. We have, between these 7 conversations and an hour conversation with each of you, we have created a 20-hour living library that people can invest their time to get to know us, and to kind of be witness to more intelligent conversation, to more emotionally aware conversation. So that's there. That's already been created. The second phase was, we used to call it settling, but we're kind of getting away from that colonial type of language. So now we call it cultivating. And that was the possibility conversation. So that's where I asked all of you what your highest intention was, and what does that intention make possible, and then what does that make possible, and what does that make possible, and then we scaled it back. What is it going to take to live your highest intention, and then what is it going to take to make that happen, and what is it going to take to make that happen. So we were, in essence, reverse engineering how to get to your highest intention. So that's the possibility conversation. And the way that's shown up, and again, we've already created now, between our 7 conversations, it's probably going to be close to 14 hours of content right there just on how to facilitate conversations like this. You know, what are some of the key takeaways in facilitating something like this? So really, we've kind of set up an asynchronistic facilitator training module, you know, along the way as we're doing this. So then there comes the invitation conversation, which is where I asked you, you know, what helps you to feel loved, to feel honored, to feel productive, to feel like you're in the flow, and also what are your deal breakers. And that's when we started to come up with the values. We started coming up with, you know, what's important to us. So even if we're not even talking about a specific topic, if we're treating each other, you know, according to these values that we're expressing, there's going to be a flow. And if there's not a flow, then, you know, we can find out why there is not a flow. So also I will insert this at this point as well too, is that everything that the viewers watching right now, they can you know, they can join the time bank, the karmic margin called time bank, and they can claim all of these hours watching anything we produce, and they can claim it as an hour served, or they can claim it as time provided, time served. So yeah, so that's the invitation. We used to call that the town planning phase, but again, getting away from the colonial language, we call that the regulation. So we're regulating, so we're pulling out the values and kind of establishing the rules and the boundaries about how we treat each other. And then the fourth conversation was the dissent conversation, where we started to kind of cross-reference our values with an action step. And all of the action steps on that matrix were inspired by everybody's highest intention that they had expressed in this group. So that's what we call the stewarding phase, because I've learned, and I've learned by facilitating groups like this for a couple of years now, that really I think stewarding is about observing the values, identifying the values, and creating spaces to practice the values. So that was our fourth conversation. Then our fifth conversation was the responsibility conversation. And we did that over the last 2 months. And we also did a lot of work on Facebook, filling out the matrix, where we went through all of our action steps and all of our values. And I call that the curating phase. So, you know, all of these phases, the pioneering, the cultivation, the regulation, the stewarding, and the curating. This is all from the work of Kylie Stedman Gomes and Kairotic Flow. So we finished off that matrix, and we have some results there, which I will talk about here in a little bit, so that we finally go into the final conversation, which is the commitment. And that's where, you know, we decide, you know, what action do we want to take together. We also call this, according to Kairotic Flow and Kylie Stedman Gomes, this is the scouting phase. Now that we've curated all this material and we're looking at it and we're seeing what's alive for us, you know, where are some of the speed bumps, we're scouting and we're passing information back on to the next, you know, to the next cycle, to the next pioneering phase, which will do more living library conversations, hopefully, as well, as we're pulling out the nuggets of information from these conversations. So yeah, so anyway, that was a very broad overview of where we've been. So just Amy, just after I've kind of described, kind of pulled the curtain back and described, what this whole thing was like. What is alive for you? What is alive for you after hearing that? And, what are you intuiting at this moment?
What do I alive? The only word I get is acceptance.
Mm-hmm.
It's that is coming into my head. And truly, it's like almost sounds like a secret club, when to some things, because the verbiage, some of the verbiage of how we're describing it
mm-hmm.
does sound like scouting. It's like that kind of stuff. It's like a secret club, and And I don't think it should be a secret club, you know. It is just how we're actually interacting. It's just a different language that we're using. Does that make sense?
Absolutely, yes.
So that's my intuitive person would say that.
Yep. Very good. Very good. Yeah. And that's interesting that you say that too, because what's been coming up a lot in my conversations recently is, especially when we're looking at the mental health and the spiritual component of what we do, is really at what point does something become kind of like a secret club or even like a cult? And that's something that we're very we're very conscious of. And at what point does something feel like that, that there's like an element of manipulation coming into play? And how do we talk about that? How do we open up about that?
Well,
Yeah.
I think this is it. I think this is the reason why I'm here today. You know, I'm a good person of allowing others to be themselves and hearing them out. But I'm also very good about standing on my own 2 feet. And even if there is a big tidal wave, I'm the person that's like tied to the rope on the tree, and we're gonna, take it on head on kind of thing, kind of person. That's just me. And I like to address things as they happen. If there's a conflict and stuff like that, let's get it worked out, get it under the board so I can actually move on. So it doesn't give me that, like stepping block or whatever you want to call it, or stumbling block is how I see it. But yeah, when does it become a club? It doesn't, does it? Hey, Ray's
Hello,
there.
Ray. Welcome.
Hey, Ray.
Hi.
All right, welcome, Ray. So yeah, we started at about quarter after, since it's just Amy and myself so far, Ray. So yeah, and I understand coming in that I'm dealing with kids as well too. So not a problem there whatsoever. We do what we do, and we push on as best as we can. Hello, my daughter visited us earlier too. Good.
Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So Ray, we'll just back up a little bit, and we'll let you check in. Just how are you arriving, and what are you bringing? And then I'll kind of catch you up to speed with what we've done so far.
So yeah, I'm here. I am a little distracted. I got the kids sitting around a local convenience store, but there is Wi-Fi here, so I may have a little bit of a better signal. Okay, but you're eating your chicken, right? So yeah, I'm happy to be here, and I'm glad I didn't have to miss this one, but we'll see how long I can stay for.
Yep. No problem. And thank you, Ray, because that's something that's very alive in my world as well too. Is just like, how do we continue on? How do we keep doing this in the midst of life just happening around us? Because it's happening to me too. My daughter barged in here earlier as well, and wanted to say hi, and she didn't have her nap, so she was very, very noisy as well too. But yeah, this is reality. This is what we're doing. And how do we adapt along the way? So great. So Ray, what we did was we just checked in, and I also kind of just did an overview about the 6 conversations, where we've been and how we've what the structure was for our 6 conversations. So just kind of explaining it to someone who might be watching this, who might be interested in being a facilitator, who might be interested in learning how to create a matrix, or how to facilitate these kinds of conversations. So yeah, since you're here, what I'll also do is I'll just emphasize again, this kind of combines my recap and my check-in, is that I'm really proud. I'm just really proud of everything we've accomplished. And part of my job and my work is to help everyone understand, we've really done a lot. So when you look at the first phase that I think of as pioneering, it was about creating a living library, and we've done that. We've created about 10 hours of material just in the living library alone. In the cultivating or the settling phase, that is really where we've done the work here to kind of create a culture. So we've created a culture where sometimes I'm working with people outside of this group, sometimes I'm working with you on Facebook or online, or sometimes I'm just working with you in these 6 conversations. But we've created about 14 hours of material there just to help someone understand how to facilitate something like this or how to participate in something like this. So the third step is the regulation or the town planning, which is going to be more about the time banking, and we explored that in our matrix so far. So that's really just about kind of like bringing in the technological aspect of it. The stewarding work is really about talking about the values, especially when it comes to helping improve mental health by talking about spiritual experiences or comparing spiritual experiences. And look at that, there's Kylia. Great. And then the curating is kind of like the matrixing itself, where we're cross-referencing both the values and the action steps. And all of the action steps were from the possibility conversation where I asked you, what is your highest intention? And then finally, the scouting phase is, really discussing the results of that matrix and, making any kind of commitment that we want based on that data, based on that work together, based on our journey. So great. So I'm going to welcome Kylia. How are you, Kylia?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Well, I just did 2 recaps, and we all checked in. So I'm going to let you check in next. And how are you arriving, and what are you bringing?
I am arriving a little discombobulated because it seems like every single time I have all the plans to make it on time and something happens. I'm bringing a significant amount of excitement because in like 2 sleeps, I get to see that tiny human being in the corner over there, and that's pretty exciting. It's been a while since I've gotten to see that tiny human.
Very good. Very good. Great. So Amy kind of already weighed in on this question now, but I want to ask Ray and Kylia, thinking back over the last 6 months that we've been having these conversations, when you look back on it, when you reflect on it, what is most alive for you? What would you, if someone asked you about this experience, honestly, just honestly, what would be the first things that you would think of, and what would you come up with?
I liked the opportunity to be challenged by different people's opinions, approaches to things, and thoughts and feelings, and to kind of get the opportunity to be kind of in a space of like discord, but in like a healthy, like maybe something positive could come from that type of way. Also, just the opportunity to talk about and like have these kind of conversations that like that's not a typical thing that people are doing or thinking about, and being able to hear such a wide variety of opinions.
Great. Anybody want to reflect on what Kylia had just shared? And I agree. Yeah, there was definitely a lot of diversity. There was definitely a lot of, I don't know. I would even go so far as to say maybe opportunities for healing as well, to really kind of look at some of the things that are uncomfortable as well. So that's what I was hearing. Anyone else want to reflect back what Kylia just said, and any impressions or anything that's alive for you in response to Kylia? All right, Ray, just kind of looking back over the last 6 months, what comes up for you?
I have felt like really excited by the work that this group is doing, and really happy to be a part of it and like see where we're going. I love being in what I would call emergent spaces where there's no like set agenda or objective necessarily. Like there might be some loose idea of what we all want to do, but there's this openness to whatever is co-created by the group and whatever like emerges from the group. So I really love spaces where that's happening, and I love being in space and like getting to know everybody here. I was just telling somebody about this meeting because I was picking up my kids, and I was like, I do this like thing once a month, sort of like a conversation circle that's facilitated, and I don't really know how to describe it.
Yeah.
But I think in the fact that I don't know how to describe it and I don't have a label for it is almost a good thing, because it means that this isn't something defined or in a box. It's like something different that we're doing. And yeah, I'm just enjoying engaging in this, and I love the idea of continuing and possibly facilitating conversations in the future.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Ray. Anyone like to reflect back what resonated, or what's what impressions do you get from listening to Ray?
I agree. I really like the idea of not being able to like define or describe exactly what we do, because I think one, it just leaves so much room for it to grow and expand and evolve. But two, it also leaves so much space for all types of people to participate, because there is no defined boundaries for their like set agendas other than just treating each other like with like respect and decency. But like it allows like people from all different belief systems, walks of life and stuff to come together and have these types of conversations, because there isn't that way of like, I guess what I'm hearing is like there is no way for there to be like an us versus them type of agenda or movement with inside of that, because of the lack of like definition and like ability to like accurately describe or put like a single word on it.
Very good. Very good. Great. So this is the last conversation, commitment conversation. So so just let me ask, and first of all, I want to say that I understand after doing this probably about 9 or 10 times, I understand the matrix work can be very daunting and a little bit difficult, and sometimes that's a little bit too much structure. But I wanted to ask and just do a check-in with everyone. Did you have a chance to look at the matrix?
I couldn't open it.
Nope.
No, I couldn't open it. My internet wouldn't let me.
Okay.
Yes,
Right.
I did the matrix. It was very interesting.
Okay, great. So I'll ask you. Actually, I'll start with you then, Kylie. What were some of the things that when you looked at it, what did you see? Because there's a lot going on that page.
There is. One of the things that I found really interesting was some of the crossover areas I had with people that were unexpected. It was very intriguing to see how with certain people that I expected to be much more kind of like in different spaces within certain areas, there was a lot more actual like crossover and alignment than I would have expected. And it kind of like, it sort of actually brought home a point that had been made by a good friend of mine prior to actually you sending the matrix, which was like, a lot of times we have these like negative feelings about people that like, if we could just like remove ourselves for the moment, we would see we actually have more in common with them than we ever could have expected. And like seeing the matrix, I was like, oh. Okay. The other thing I saw though also too was that the way that the group broke up, there was actually a lot of spaces where we were in a lot of like we were in much more alignment than would maybe be expected from a group of our size, but also the areas where I guess like certain people were in more favor than like not in more favor, but like the way that it broke down in sort of areas where like maybe like I didn't find myself, there was still a like awesome number of people wanting to do work or be committed or a part in that area. And it was kind of cool to see how like each different thing sort of in its own way was taken care of too.
Mm-hmm.
And that was, yeah, that was like a really interesting thing to see.
Good. Very good. Yeah, I see Ray is tending to the kids here. So yeah, one of the things that is usually alive for me is just looking at the action steps where we're most aligned, and then looking at I like to I like to look at where are the lowest rated values to see, oh, that's where the conversation needs to happen to be able to help that action step along. So first of all, I mean, as no surprise, but it shouldn't be a surprise, but everyone had a chance to kind of weigh in on the matrix. I think the only one, I think Lori had bowed out by then, but I think everybody who was in the group had completed the matrix as far as the mental health and the spiritual aspect. And what has really been emergent for me in my life, and how this experience, our conversations are weaving into other areas of my life, is I think there's a need for people who are spiritually aligned to help and support people in the mental health field who who don't have this kind of a resource. So that's been really alive, because I feel like I know in my conversations with Mimi, I felt that when we were leaning more towards spiritual, there was a flow, but when we were leaning more towards the clinical mental health, there was more of a resistance. So I think that's some great work that's that is a potential. There's a lot of potential for us. And one of the invitations and one of the commitments would be to ask all of you if you would like to participate in some of our bridge conversation works, which is the bridge between clinicians and peers. I also have recordings of these kinds of conversations with that group. So that would be one commitment as well, to see if we want to continue to explore building bridges between spiritual people and people who are, in the mental health field, because there's a strong alignment. I think I have my notes here. I think we were in 86%. So I'm kind of like a numbers geek in a way. 86% is a pretty high alignment, especially with 7 or 8 people weighing in on that conversation. But let's just do a kind of like a check-in around there. How do you feel about that? How do you feel if I were to invite you all into conversations with mental health people in the mental health world?